The jury in Atlanta's trial of the 21st century could return to the courtroom on Monday, August 12th. And whether or not they're going to hear from the prosecution's star witness in the trial of Young Thug here in Atlanta, we really don't know because Kenneth Copeland, a.k.a. Little Woody, doesn't know himself. I'm Tim Darnell. Along with Rachel Aragon. Rachel, you and I have been following one of the highest profile criminal trials in American history now for several months. And just when you think things couldn't get any more strange or any more bizarre, lo and behold, Kenneth Copeland, prosecution star witness in the trial of Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, shows up in courtroom, and the trial's third judge in the entire judicial proceeding got her first glimpse of Kenneth Copeland, a.k.a. Little Woody, and you were watching all of this unfold. Tell us what happened this week.
I will say Kenneth Copeland, a.k.a. Little Willie, definitely stayed in character when we saw him briefly, and he really left an impact, really leaving everyone in suspense this week, whether or not he'll testify this coming Monday, saying, quote, "depends on how I wake up." So we don't even know if the state's key witness, mind you, will go on to testify. And grant you, this is really key to the state because they're trying to use him to tie the defendants to these alleged crimes. So that is one big unknown. But the second big thing, which you mentioned, Tim, is the jury. After a month and a half or so of being off, they're going to likely come into Monday's courtroom with a brand new face. They're going to tell the jury something as to maybe why Glanville is no longer there. And it'll just be fascinating, Tim, to see their reaction and really see how Judge Whitaker approaches them.
And we actually heard Judge Whitaker, who, as we mentioned, is the third jurist who has been assigned to this sprawling, complex, historically long trial. It's going to become Georgia's longest trial, criminal trial in history, no doubt. We heard earlier this week she began reciting some of her proposed jury instructions as to the fact that Judge Glanville is no longer on the case, and we might actually be looking at a scenario where we're going to restart the entire testimony of Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah, it sounds like she definitely wants a clean slate for the jury to really basically start from scratch when it comes to witness Kenneth Copeland. But what is still looming throughout this entire week is she's plowing ahead in one direction, so it seems like the trial will continue. On the other hand, there are several major motions looming that she has not ruled on. A mistrial motion, a motion for a fair trial, and a motion to disqualify two of the top prosecutors on this case. And I just want to point something out that I've observed over the last few weeks she's been on this trial. She's been very efficient, done her homework, plowing through other motions. I do think it's interesting that so far she hasn't touched the big ones yet. Again, those three I just mentioned. And honestly, there could be more motions filed by the defense in the near future.
She has been very efficient. We have been watching the trial, you and I, for several months, and we would always, Judge Glanville would always set a court time, and then whether or not the trial actually went on, or we've seen hours upon hours of delays, Judge Whitaker is very efficient. But she, as you said, she's also considering whether or not to disqualify two of the top Fulton County prosecutors, Adrian Love and Simone Hilton, from the trial. Tell us what that's about.
Yes, several of the motions that right now are looming are being considered tied to potential Brady materials. So defense attorneys right now, they're alleging the state essentially withheld critical information or evidence from the defendants. This information relates back to testimony from Kenneth Copeland on that secret ex parte meeting. And so they believe that meeting, again, it's coming back to haunt them, if you will, that there was critical information that came out that they only found out about, if you recall, because Brian Steele somehow found out about it. But it wasn't directly told to him. So in short, one of the things that would disqualify, according to the motion, these top prosecutors would be potential Brady evidence that was withheld. Again, we still don't know if that is in fact true, but that is something she's obviously still considering because, like I said, it's amazing how quickly she's moved through many other motions, but with, being very thorough, mind you. But with these, she's definitely really taking her time. And even yesterday, in fact, she asked both sides, particularly the state, though, is there anything else I should know about, especially braided material? So she's definitely giving the state something to think about.
She is, and we thought a week or so ago, at least I did, that a lot of these mistrial motions have been ruled against, or she had rejected a couple of mistrial motions. She has rejected bond for Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, and several of his defendants. But what was really surprising this week is she began revisiting, all right, maybe there are some Brady rule violations. Tell us what the Brady rule is all about.
Brady information or Brady material, when you hear that word thrown out, would be information that's favorable to the defendant's case. So if you're withholding or hiding information that would be favorable to defendants, that is a big no-no, for lack of better words. So again, this really ties back to that June 10th meeting that involved the state, Judge Glanville, who is now recused, and Kenneth Copeland, that key witness. He had talked about something related, potentially, the defense argues, to the death and killing of Donovan Thomas. That is something that some of the defendants are being allegedly tied to, including Young Thug. So that is very critical information the defense is arguing we need to know about. We should have been at that meeting at the very least or known about that. So if this is allegedly being withheld or hidden, that is critical, and I believe the defense is saying that would be prosecution misconduct. So these are very heavy issues that the judge made very clear. She is looking at this with all seriousness, and it'll be fascinating to see how she rules on this.
I don't recall ever witnessing a trial where defense attorneys wanted or were making the argument to call the trial's former judge to the witness stand. And I heard that several times from Brian Steele, Young Thug's one of his two attorneys. What are the chances of Uriel Glanville, the Fulton County Superior Court Chief Judge, the trial's original judge, who has since been recused, is there a possibility he may actually be called to the witness stand?
That would make for great TV, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I believe Judge Whitaker may even have suggested or said that that will not be happening. I will say, though, I think one of the most recent witness lists from the defense did have his name, Judge Glanville, on that list, but that doesn't necessarily mean Whitaker is going to allow that to happen. But when you bring up Judge Glanville in this context, it reminds me that the defense, again, they're alleging, along with these motions, is that it wasn't just the state who had misconduct. They're alleging that Glanville was roped into this as well, but also, again, was there overseeing these meetings and that he didn't do anything about it. And they're alleging that he favors the prosecution and is biased. So it's all kind of tied together, and we'll see what happens. But I would bet my money that he's most likely not going to take the witness stand.
Just the latest fascinating development in Atlanta's trial of the 21st century, and arguably the most watched judicial criminal proceedings happening right now in the United States. Thanks to Rachel Aragon for all of the wonderful inside information. Continue to follow the trial of Jeffrey Williams, aka the global recording rap and hip-hop musical entertainment superstar known as Young Thug, here on Atlanta News First and wherever you get your podcast.